Chris Redfield has been around since the original Resident Evil. He's always been one of the good guys, constantly fighting against the bioweapon threat created by Umbrella. So like many other fans, I was quite surprised to see how Chris acts in the trailer for Resident Evil Village. Has Chris finally turned into the villain, or is there more going on here that we don't yet understand? In this video, I'm going to be looking at the information we have on Resident Evil Village, alongside what we know of previous games, to offer a few theories on what could be going on with Chris. So just in case, potential spoilers for the entire Resident Evil franchise coming up. So Chris Redfield has been a major character in the world of Resident Evil since RE1. He was one of the two playable characters alongside Jill Valentine, and was one of the few survivors of the Spencer Mansion incident. Since then, he has appeared in a number of games, but has always been on the good side, continuing to fight against Umbrella and the bioweapons that are created due to their research and schemes. But in Resident Evil 7, fans were incredibly surprised to see Chris working for Umbrella. Let's get into that a little bit more. Resident Evil 7 was a very different game to the previous main titles of the series. It was the first main title to go first person, it introduced a brand new protagonist, Ethan Winters, and had a very different tone to many of the previous games, while still displaying many of the survival horror ingredients that make a Resident Evil game. In fact, many people consider Resident Evil 7 to be a soft reboot, in the fact that this game took a very different direction from Resident Evil 5 and 6, which many fans considered to be far too action-orientated. At the end of Resident Evil 7, Chris Redfield turns up in a helicopter with heavily armed soldiers, rescues Ethan and, depending on your choices, Mia too. But many of us were confused when the helicopter turns, we see Umbrella Corporation and the Umbrella logo, although blue instead of red this time, along the side of the helicopter. Some people theorized that this meant this was an alternative timeline or a reboot. However, we see from the Resident Evil 7 DLC titled Not a Hero that this is the same universe. This is a newly reformed Umbrella, who have moved away from bioweapons research and are supposedly now a private military company with the aim of containing and destroying bioweapons to atone for their past mistakes. Can we trust them? Maybe not, but in the trailer for Resident Evil Village, we see Chris murdering Mia in cold blood in front of Ethan. This does not seem like something Chris would do. After all, he rescued Ethan and Mia in Resident Evil 7. Why would he now kill Mia? Chris looks much older here. He also looks incredibly tired, and we'll come back to that later. He's also accompanied by masked men that don't look very much like the soldiers we see Chris with at the end of Resident Evil 7. So what's going on here? I have a number of theories that could explain why Chris has this change in personality, and at the moment, all are equally as likely. The first theory, and honestly the least fun one, is that Chris has just lost it. As I stated earlier, Chris has been fighting in this war against Umbrella for years. He has survived a number of crisis situations, defeated a host of horrors that have proven too much for others, and he has lost a number of allies in this fight. In fact, the last time we see Chris was in his standalone DLC for Resident Evil 7, titled Not a Hero. In this DLC, Chris loses his entire team to Lucas and his maniacal traps. He tries to save them, but he can't. After finally defeating Lucas, who transforms into a monster due to Evelyn's mold virus, Chris picks up a picture of the now lost Baker family and asks, "Do you think we did any good here?" Is this Chris questioning whether defeating the bioweapons is enough? Is Not a Hero hinting that Chris is starting to believe that more drastic measures are necessary? Has Chris finally lost so much that he can't bear to lose anymore? All this loss must have had some effect on his mental state, and it's entirely possible that the Chris that we see in the trailer for Resident Evil Village is a Chris who has finally lost his will to be the good guy and has now fallen to doing bad things in the name of the greater good. So this theory would make sense to me. However, what if there was something a little bit more sinister going on here? It appears that Umbrella is no more, not in the capacity of the evil megacorporation like it used to be, but Resident Evil Village has already teased that there are some very powerful players about to be brought to the table. We know that Lady Dimitrescu is a part of House Dimitrescu. She is possibly the matriarch of the house, although that could be Mother Miranda that we hear her talking to on the phone. Either way, House Dimitrescu is an incredibly wealthy one. We can see that by the castle that they own, and the fact that the lady is a lady at all. Lady is the female equivalent of lord, and in parts of Europe is a title given to people of power and influence still to this day. We also see that there are a number of other houses, but interestingly enough, the trailer shows some form of plaque with their house crests around the Umbrella logo. Umbrella has a long history of working with rich and powerful families, such as the Ashford family. The Ashford family were a wealthy British family that have been behind a number of the disasters players have had to survive. So it's possible that these houses have worked with Umbrella before, possibly even having a hand in creating the original Umbrella. So while the megacorporation has gone, the influence Umbrella had might not have. These rich and powerful people might have found a way to force Chris to do their bidding. Perhaps they have captured someone close to him, maybe his sister Claire for example. If we look again at the trailer, we see Chris sees as a child. More than likely, this is Mia and Ethan's child, Rosemary. This again seems so out of character for Chris. Why is he capturing the child? It's possible that this is because both Ethan and Mia have been exposed to the mole virus, their child has been too. We don't know what effects the mole virus could have on a child born with it, and it's entirely possible that someone wants this child for research purposes. In fact, this raises a very good point. We don't know if Mia is still infected with the mole virus, or to what degree. We know that Ethan gave Mia the serum in Resident Evil 7, and that choice has now been made canon by Capcom. But we don't know if the serum completely cured her or removed the mole virus from her entirely. In fact, I would say it's safe to say that it hasn't, since Mia still feels the effect of Evelyn's control after taking the serum in Resident Evil 7.
Out of here and find her. Here, take this.
What? Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Saving your life. You need to go. I won't be able to resist for much longer.
No.
Yes, she can resist it, but it's still there. This could mean two things. Firstly, that Evelyn's need for family is still lingering inside Mia, which is why Mia and Ethan decided to have a child in the first place. But also, that Mia could still be incredibly difficult to kill. We know that Mia has survived many shots to the head before. Ethan himself shot Mia in order to pacify her, but that did not stop her for long. Imagine how many bunches of flowers that one took to get Ethan out of the bad books. So it raises the question of whether Chris knows that these bullets might not kill Mia, but would just pacify her long enough for him to take the child. Still a very shady thing to do, but think about this logically. Mia is Ethan's wife and a main protagonist in Resident Evil 7. If she was going to be killed off, why put that in the trailer? Seems like a major plot point like that wouldn't be given away so easily. But still, who or what is motivating Chris to separate Mia and Ethan from their child? Like I said, maybe someone is leaning on Chris, and he's doing this reluctantly. After all, he does apologize to Ethan as he shoots Mia, and I think that this is a sincere apology.
Chris?
Sorry, Ethan.
Why?
As I said earlier, Chris looks much older here than did in Resident Evil 7. Susie aka the Sphere Hunter thinks that this is Capcom reverting Chris's looks to match the previous games, as Chris in Resident Evil 7 looked younger than he should be. He still looks much more dark and grim than he usually does. Something seems to have stressed him out. But this brings me on to my third and favourite theory. Chris is infected. This theory comes from the front cover of the game. It's been updated to show the split face of Chris and a wolf with a glowing yellow eye. This could be showing two different characters, but it's possible that this is a hint towards what's going on with Chris. If you look at the eye, it looks eerily similar to Lady Dimitrescu's. While the lady and her daughters feel very similar to vampires, knowing the world of Resident Evil, they are more than likely under the effect of some virus, probably one we haven't encountered yet. We can also see that there are others around the village that seem to be under the effects of the virus, and some definitely appear to be inspired by werewolves. I think it's safe to say that at least thematically, we are going to see a vampire and werewolf theme, and we have seen that in a number of other universes that vampires and werewolves are often pitted against each other, with vampires representing the more aristocratic class, and the werewolves often being the far more oppressed and downtrodden. Perhaps Chris is infected with the same virus. This could have a number of implications. Perhaps he is being controlled or commanded by one of the houses. Perhaps the child is the key to the ceremony that we hear Lady Dimitrescu talk of. Maybe the vampire ruling class have had the ability to control others, and we see that in many other vampire stories. We also know that Evelyn's mold virus has the ability to influence and control people too, so it's not out of the realms of possibility. If he is infected, he might be fighting his own battle in his own head, like we saw with Mia and Ethan in Resident Evil 7. This could explain why Chris seems to be acting out of character. It's possible that for one reason or another, he doesn't have a choice. I think it's safe to say that Rosemary is important to someone. Whether Chris is taking the child to them or trying to keep them away from them is unclear. Either way, I think Capcom is setting up a complex and interesting story for Resident Evil 8, and I cannot wait to see what secrets and twists they have in store for us. Until we get our hands on the game, we can only really guess, but I hope you enjoyed my theories regardless. If you did, I have more content on the channel, including theories for other games like Little Nightmares 2, and more Resident Evil content on the way, so if you want to, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.